Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. This is the reading text from the class. So I'm going to try to read the text and try to find words that are difficult. And of course, maybe also try to give you like an idea about the pronunciation segment that happened in the class. So I guess we'll cover that too, right? So in the class, we covered the text about the myth of Sisyphus. The pronunciation of this character is Sisyphus, right? Not Sisyphus, Sisyphus, because the stress falls on the first syllable. So the myth of Sisyphus is about this ancient Greek king that defied God, tried to cheat death several times. So he basically got punished by the gods by making him push a boulder up a mountain or a steep mountain. And he has to do that task again and again. He would get the boulder all the way to the top, and the boulder would roll all the way to the bottom, right? So that's the punishment Sisyphus was given. All right, now to the pronunciation. In class, I talked about these three sounds that tend to be confused a lot. So the long E, the diphthong A, and the short E, E, right? Notice they are slightly different, but when you see them in writing, you may confuse the pronunciation, right? So we'll see these minimal sets and compare the three sounds, right? So we have E as in seat, A as in sate, and then E as in sit. All right, we have heal, fail, fill, leave, lave, live, peak, pake, pick, bean, bane, bin, cheap, chape, chip, deep, date, dip, meet, mate, mit, read, raid, rid, seen, sane, sin. Right, now there are some phrasal verbs that we talked about in the class we discussed before the text. So the first one is to carry out. To carry out something is to perform something or to complete something, to carry out a task or a mission. The second one is to go through. To go through is to experience something difficult. For example, you've gone through a difficult relationship or situation. To deal with is to handle a certain thing, a situation or problem. I have to deal with you. Could be also a person, right? To start over. To start over, to repeat something from the very beginning. Next one is to give up. To give up is basically to stop trying, give up. We saw another phrasal verb in the class, to cave in. You cave in or give up. Next one is to break down. To break down has a lot of meanings, but we have to lose control of something, either over your emotions, right? Or to break apart. Basically, if something breaks apart, like an engine, the engine can break down, basically stop working, right? Next one is to build up. To build up is to increase or develop over time. For example, your emotion or satisfaction can build up, basically increase over time. Could be also anxiety or, I don't know, emotional turmoil. To end up is to finally reach a result. All right, that's it for the phrasal verbs. Now with the text. Sisyphus and the question of meaning. The story of Sisyphus comes from ancient Greek mythology, yet it still feels surprisingly relevant today. Sisyphus was a king known not only for his intelligence, but also for his arrogance and refusal to respect the gods. He repeatedly tried to outsmart them, even managing to cheat death for a period of time. This defiance could not go unpunished. In the end, the gods gave him a sentence designed to break both his body and spirit. His task was simple, but merciless. He had to push a massive boulder up a steep mountain. Just as he reached the top, the rock would roll all the way back down to the bottom. There was no progress, no final goal, and no possibility of success. The task would repeat forever. Unlike other punishments, this one had no dramatic moment of suffering. Its cruelty lay in its endless repetition and its complete lack of purpose. Centuries later, the philosopher Albert Camus used this myth to explore a much deeper question. What is the meaning of life, if any? Camus argued that human beings naturally search for meaning. They want their actions to lead somewhere, to make a larger sense. However, the world does not always respond to this desire. It does not offer clear answers or guarantees. This tension between what we seek and what the world provides is what Camus calls the absurd. This idea becomes clearer when we look at ordinary life. Many people live according to routines that repeat day after day. They work, solve problems, face difficulties, and sometimes lose what they have built. Even when progress is made, it can disappear quickly. A person may spend years building something only to see it collapse and be forced to begin again. The feeling of being back to square one is not rare. Life can sometimes resemble an uphill battle where effort is constant but results are uncertain. What makes Camus' interpretation powerful is that he does not present Sisyphus as a defeated figure. Instead, he focuses on Sisyphus' awareness. Each time Sisyphus walks back down the mountain, he fully understands his situation. There is no hope that things will change, no illusion of escape, and yet he continues. This awareness, according to Camus, is what gives Sisyphus a kind of freedom. If the outcome cannot change, then the struggle itself becomes the central experience. Sisyphus cannot control the result, but he can control his response. He does not give in to despair, nor does he pretend that the task has meaning in a traditional sense. Instead, he accepts it completely. In doing so, he takes ownership of his fate rather than being crushed by it. Camus draws a bold conclusion from this. He suggests that we must imagine Sisyphus as happy. This idea might seem strange at first. How can someone in such a situation be happy? The answer lies in the shift of perspective. Happiness in this case does not come from success or achievement. It comes from accepting reality and continuing to act with determination. This interpretation challenges a common belief. Many people assume that happiness depends on reaching goals, finding clear purpose, or achieving lasting results. The myth of Sisyphus suggests something more complex. It suggests that meaning is not always something we find in the world. Sometimes it is something we create through our attitude, our persistence, and our refusal to give up. In the end, the story of Sisyphus does not offer comfort in the usual sense. It does not promise that life will become easier or more meaningful over time. Instead, it offers a way of facing difficulty without illusion. It opens our eyes to see that struggle is an avoidable part of life. More importantly, it suggests that even in a world that may seem indifferent, human beings still have the ability to respond with strength, awareness, and dignity. All right, this is the text that we read in class. There were some words that tend to be repeated, at least the mispronunciation tend to be repeated in the class. So I'm going to go over those mispronounced words. So the first one is Sisyphus. Again, as I said before, it is Sisyphus, the myth of Sisyphus. Gods. It's not goods or gods, it's gods. Gods. Next one is defiance, from the verb to defy, to refuse to obey. Defy, defiance. Unpunished. It is not unpunished or unpunished, it is unpunished. In English, if a verb ends in a sh sound, the pronunciation is going to be checked, unpunished. Next one is merciless, from mercy, merciless. Next one is boulder. And next one is not mountain, it's mountain. The stress is on the first syllable, so mountain. Next one is dramatic, not dramatic. It's dramatic. Stress is on m. Remember, words ending in ek tend to be stressed on the syllable before them. The syllable before ek is m. Dramatic, dramatic. Next one is guarantees, not guarantees, guarantees. Next one is absurd, not absurd. It's absurd. The stress is on b, absurd. This is absurd, or the life of the absurd. Next one is resemble, z sound. Resemble, not resemble, is resemble. Next one is uphill battle. Uphill battle, not uphill, it's uphill, uphill battle. Next one is suggest. It's not suggest or suggest, it's suggests, not suggest or suggests, it's sugge. One more time, suggests, suggests. Someone suggests, or it suggests. Next one is not achievement, it's achievement, achievement, a ch sound there. And the last one is dignity or dignity, dignity. Okay. All right, that's it for the text. In the class, I assigned you writing, so you can do writing if you want. These are the most mispronounced words in the text. There are some words that are maybe difficult for the students. The first one was cunning. To be cunning is to use clever tactics, like lawyers, to be like dishonest, or like salespeople, right? So you have to find a way to get someone to agree or accept what you're proposing, right? So basically you manipulate people into getting something, right? So clever tactics. Next one is defiance. Defiance comes from the verb to defy. Someone who defies something is refused to obey something. So defiance is basically refusing to obey or do something for someone, right? For example, people defy authority, basically refuse authority. Example, he spoke in defiance of the rules, basically refusal to obey the rules. Merciless comes from mercy, right? To be mercy is kindness, right? To be merciless is to show no kindness or pity. Merciless. So less means no mercy. It's like saying no mercy, basically. A boulder is a type of rock somehow detached from a body, right? So a very large rock called a boulder. Like the Myth of Sisyphus, the Sisyphus was punished to push the boulder up the steep mountain. Next one is absurd. If something is absurd, is something you cannot comprehend. It's completely unreasonable or stupid or silly to understand, right? You cannot understand it. Next one is steep. If something is steep, is rising sharply, right? Or falling sharply, right? It's like you have, when you're driving, there is a flat road and there is a steep road. Steep road is difficult to drive in. And the last one is indifferent. To be indifferent is to not care, not to be involved with either parties. You are in somehow, not in the middle, you just don't care. I'm indifferent. If someone asks you about a situation or a problem or the war in the Middle East, you say, I'm indifferent, meaning I don't care. I don't know what's going on. I don't want to know. I don't care. That's it. That's to be indifferent. But yeah, that was for the text of this week. Appreciate everybody for listening. I'll see you next time. Until then, bye.